Guys, it's that time. It's holiday shopping. We've got so much to do, so many things to buy. And Rakuten is the best way to save lots of money this holiday season because you can stack holiday sales and deals on top of cash back to maximize your savings at over 3,500 stores. Join the 17 million members who are already saving. Start all of your holiday shopping at Rakuten.com or download the Rakuten app and start saving today. Your cash back really adds up. The holiday season is all about reconnecting, from festive gatherings to friends to special moments. And we want to have that opportunity to dress up and do our makeup and our hair, which you really want it to look the best. And you can do that with Nutrafol. The cold, dry air of the winter can be unforgiving, but your hair doesn't have to suffer. For a limited time, Nutrafol is offering our Juicy Scoopers $10 off your first month subscription and free shipping when you go to Nutrafol.com and enter the promo code JUICYSCOOP. Find out why over 4,500 healthcare professionals and stylists recommend Nutrafol for healthier hair.
Heather McDonald has got the juiciest scoop. When you're on the road, when you're on the go, Juicy Scoop is the show to know. She talks Hollywood tales, her real life Mr. Segment serial data, and serial sister. You'll be addicted and addicted fast to the #1 tabloid real life podcast. Listen in, listen up. Woo woo. Heather McDonald, Juicy Scoop.
Hello and welcome to Juicy Scoop. Happy Thanksgiving. Okay, there's some hot topic update. I'm sure you know what I'm going to get into. And then I have a great interview I'm excited to share with all of you. So first of all, you've now heard the news. Maybe you haven't. That's why you're here on Juicy Scoop. Vanderpump announced that it is coming back, but with an all new cast. Nobody that we know. I had heard so many things leading up to this. I had heard that they were meeting with new people. I was at Vanderpump and a bartender told me I'm auditioning for it. I also heard that they were doing filming with new people, but with James Kennedy. However, James Kennedy, along with Ariana and Lala and Sheena and many people, posted, within hours of the news that they are grateful for Vanderpump Rules, are excited for the next chapter. They had slideshows of their favorite photos and videos from the last decade or however long they were on. I may or may not have knowledge that this was coming, and I think that was a fair thing to do as producers, to let these, icons of Vanderpump Rules know that this announcement was coming, and so that they could not be blindsided, gather their photos and whatever together so that their announcement can be the way they want it to be. And so this will be interesting. I mean, this is what we have complained about, that it has changed. They're not still waiters. A lot of people will say, how we don't like the new Rhodey. How could the new Vanderpump keep our interest? I think this is a genius move on the side of the producers, because so many of them are friends with the Valley cast. Jax and Brittany have broken up. That's going to be very juicy to watch. It's sad, but it's going to be super intriguing. People like these shows because they can relate. They can relate to parenting. They can relate to co-parenting. They can relate to breakups and relationships changing. And the Valley has been so open and honest about that. We like their new friends that we are not familiar with. Kristen Doute just announced she's pregnant. She's engaged and she's pregnant. And good for Kristen Doute. She was fired along with Stassi and Jax and Brittany a few years ago. Stassi's off doing great on her own, doing her own thing. She's got her own show coming out. She's going to be on the Vanderpump Villa as well. And then now Kristen is really on the show that is probably the most anticipated Bravo show this year, The Valley. And Brittany and Stassi and Lala are really great friends. They're mom friends as well as being old friends. Their kids go to the same school. There's going to be activities and things. I'm sure they're making many appearances. Also, this means for the Valley producers that they're not probably going to be playing hardball about, hey, Tom Schwartz, want to come to this party over at Jack's condo, or do you want to come to Cruz's 4th birthday party? We'll pay you this amount. They want to stay in it. And they really are friends. Schwartz's condo is very close to Jack's, which is very close in the Valley to his restaurant and also to Brittany and Cruz's house now. So I think it was a brilliant move on the producers. I don't think they were, they knew this was going to be an issue. We saw the way it ended. We knew that real friendships were not what they once were. Many of these players were not hanging out with each other anymore and really didn't want to, like Ariana and Tom Sandoval. So I think we're going to see many of them make appearances. And then as that show grows, it could really evolve into something really juicy. In the meantime, I wish them all the best with all their endeavors. They are all famous. They all have huge followings and different businesses and streams of income. So it will be a really interesting thing to see what happens with Bravo, because as I said, it looks like that mini fan fest was not a huge hit. And will BravoCon happen in September or next year? Whenever will it happen? Will it happen in Vegas? If we don't have New Jersey happening with those, icons so that we can actually be interested in the panels, if they just come on and tell about the old shit that they've been saying at every city winery in a live show, I don't think that's that interesting. It's only going to be interesting because we're watching it. So if we don't have New Jersey to talk about, the OGs of Roni to talk about, I don't know. Is there enough? And now the Vanderpump kids aren't going to be there. I still call them kids. And if they're only one season in, I don't know how super interested we're going to be. I mean, it took us years to get to know the cast. But as far as the new cast, I wish them the best. I think this is kind of exciting. What made Vanderpump so relatable was these people were real friends. They were really struggling actors. They said yes to this reality show, hoping that it would lead to bigger things. And you know what? It did. It really did. And but that's what the LA life was like 15 years ago. Does it still reflect that with social media and ways for people to instantly kind of become famous via TikTok or Instagram? I don't know, but I think it's a really smart move, and for the production company of both The Valley and Vanderpump Rules, and for Lisa Vanderpump. And so let's see what happens. DJ James Kennedy has a huge career already, doing really well with DJing. So there could be almost little mini reality shows, if not on TV, on different, YouTube or whatever, where these people kind of put their own production companies together and follow their own lives and their own friends. And so I'm excited to see where all of this goes. All right, you guys, I want to remind you that a lot of people will say, gosh, I wish I could listen to Juicy Scoop without ads. You can. If you're listening to this on Apple, that is what the Apple subscription is for. You will get all the Tuesday and Thursday shows ad-free, as well as all of the back episodes of the Tuesdays and Thursday show. That is different. Apple subscription offers you that, and Patreon offers you more of a community in talking and sharing, which is even going to get bigger. So those are the differences, and a lot of people belong to both for those reasons. So I wanted to explain that, and you just do that Apple subscription, you'll get this whole thing ad-free. And now I am going to share something that was shared on my Friday paid platform, which I will share now. It got a lot of conversation going. It was really positive for the two interview guests that were part of it, Dr. Drew and Gage Edward. And people could relate to it as far as co-parenting, past relationships, moving forward, healing oneself, but also when there's been many years of where you've been portrayed or discussed on a big public platform and you haven't responded until now. I think that was really important. And I think it's going really well. And you probably will have some questions after this. And I've been receiving the questions since I posted it on Friday's Patreon. And I will be addressing those questions and curiosities on tomorrow's Patreon, which you can get at heathermcdonald.net. So there you go. Have a great Thanksgiving. And here is my interview with Dr. Drew Pinsky and Gage Edward. Hello and welcome to Juicy Scoop. Well, this is going to be a real juicy one. It's something that we've talked a lot about on the show. You hear a lot of people talk about narcissism and how many people are narcissistic. We hear they talk about it on reality shows everywhere. And also how hard it might be if you are co-parenting with who you believe might be a narcissist or at least have many of the traits. So I am here with my friend of 15 years, Gage Edwards, who he is a father and he is, co-parenting, which anyone knows is never even the best situation. It's not necessarily easy. And then we're also here with my dear friend, Dr. Drew, who has written a book on narcissism. That book came out about 15 years ago too, right?
Yeah, about that. We saw it coming.
Yeah. So what was it called? What is it called?
It was called The Mirror Effect, but it was built. Do you know how that happened, that book? We did research on celebrities. It was the only published research in history. There was all this speculation about celebrities and narcissism. No one had ever studied them. Well, because a celebrity came on our radio show every night, we gave them a narcissistic inventory for like 250 of them. And we were able to document that, lo and behold, people that are musicians and comedians and particularly reality show participants, high levels of narcissism.
Very interesting. Okay, so Gage, tell us a little bit about your background and why this definitely pertains to what Dr. Drew wrote about.
Well, I think that in the last few years, so I was in a relationship for over a decade. At 8 years, we had our daughter, who's now 8 years old. 2 years after she was born, the relationship just disintegrated. And in the 5 years of sort of the aftermath of that decade-long, highly public relationship, there was a lot of obviously processing, I had also run his business, created multiple streams of income together, product lines, all of these things. We were completely enmeshed and was reliant on that. And when the relationship abruptly ended one night, it took a couple more months of business not working out together, obviously, in hindsight. And it just got to a breaking point where that also wouldn't work. So then I was thrust into the last 5 years of recreating who I was at 33, starting over, fighting for custody. She had lived for her 2 years in our family home. And then, it was the trying to sort it out without legal intervention. And then, defending myself through all of that. I think that there were two key elements in the failure of that decade-long relationship. And she was the impetus to one of them because it was highly documented and shown on TV and all of it. And I think I was a little bit blind and disoriented in that I didn't see what was going on. And to be fair, I don't think that he changed. I think I changed. And I think that's what led to the end of the relationship, because suddenly the way I was spoken to daily, the way things were handled, all of which were on a TV show already. Like it's not like, oh my gosh, that just something morphed and changed. It wasn't that. It was that now there were a set of eyes, and both of you as parents, your kids are mimicking all behavior. They're mimicking how you speak, all of it.
I'm gonna interrupt because there's already a lot going on, a lot.
Well, I just want to say one thing about the TV show, which still you can watch for free on all these streamers, or you buy the streamers.
And I don't know anything about anything.
So
I come as a virgin novice.
So I'll just tell you. So his ex-partner was on a TV show for many, many years.
From a juicy scoop standpoint, isn't it crazy how no relationships ever survive reality cameras?
It doesn't.
It's just crazy.
It really doesn't.
And part of what you were saying made me think, not only are you seeing things through the eyes of your daughter, but you're literally seeing things as they occur on TV, because it's that reliving and revivifying of things that I hear people talk about when their relationships fall apart because of TV. It's like, oh, we dealt with that a long time ago, and here it is back again, and I can't deny it anymore.
And just one of the scenes that I recall from the show after their daughter was born was, his ex-partner was getting very heated about something, which is what made him a memorable reality show character.
Always, right? Yeah.
But this is your partner and your co-parent and everything. And he's speaking to Gage and he's like, if you messed up this one thing, like, and what is the point of having you? What is the value of having you? And I was like, I don't understand.
It wasn't just that. It was that if I have people taking care of our daughter and you're not doing this in the business, what is your value to me?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. It was.
And that was as the parent of I don't know, she's probably 6 or 9, somewhere months old at this point, where it's just like, you know, you asked me before about that. And it's like, what did you think in that moment? And I thought in that moment was, I'm already here mentally. I'm already thinking this, but I've got cameras on me. And these are parts of the end. This isn't sustainable.
It's actually a really heartbreaking story.
It's terrible because it's also something she can then go watch.
I feel what he's feeling. It's like, oh my goodness.
I also feel because this was, you know, we really hadn't seen a relationship between 2 men raising a daughter, which I thought is great. Why I saw that and why it's been in my head for many years is because the audience of your show and his subsequent show, which is just a radio show with video component, is the audience is, again, predominantly female. And it doesn't seem like anybody sees how hypocritical that is. If we saw a man speaking to his partner who is a woman who is the main caregiver of the child,
oh boy,
we would be horrified. Like
right.
we watch a housewife and the guy's like, get your own coffee, and that guy is crucified, divorce that, whatever. So I think that's like an interesting element of just like in the perception of watching these people's lives for entertainment, sitting back and being like, oh, I never really thought of it like that, and how unfair that is.
Oh, what I have thought is that with the people that are in our lives now, my relationship now, our 2 kids, that kind of personality and the way that is sort of spoken to me indirectly through another means of media, I would never have someone like that in my life.
Okay,
you would not be allowed to be my friend in that time
let's
period.
Hear Drew's analysis
so
a little bit.
I need a lot more information, and some of you may not be able to give me.
Sure.
Because I don't want you to divulge anything that would hurt anybody or be uncomfortable for you or anything. But you did say that one night it collapsed.
Yes.
Was there a discovery or something?
I had started seeing a therapist, and a therapist that in particular works with gay men, and was referred by another gay friend couple that had gone through some stuff, and I had been seeing him for probably 4 or 5 weeks. We were in a tough spot, I think a very transitional time, that the relationship was morphing into something that I also was not okay with. And so I started seeing a therapist sort of talk through.
Now, you understand that's vague, right?
What's vague?
It was morphing into something I was not okay with.
It just wasn't it wasn't what I signed up for. It was on a personal level.
You're using code. I think I understand the code. Okay. I don't know if I want to out the code.
Yeah, but your code is probably,
Right, but that suggests another problem here too.
Okay.
Right, more than just personality.
Well, I don't know what that problem is, but I'll tell you that.
Was there infidelity problem?
I think that there was. It has been said.
Yes or no? Was that part of the collapse that night?
Or was that where it might have led to?
Yeah.
I think that, like it wasn't your traditional family view of what the trajectory of your life.
Okay.
Yes. Was because similar to what you were raised in, and this was going in a path, even though you're gay, going into a path that you were not.
You didn't want.
And it was said really loudly after, which I think.
I don't know anything about anything.
Yeah, but I think that it was said after, very publicly, that a lot of people have the perception that I had cheated in this relationship.
Right.
And I had not.
What I hear from you is this extreme codependency, right? And did your therapist put names to what you were struggling with? Did he or she tell you kind of how to understand, or have you learned since?
Well, what I had said is that I need basically a break, and we're in this for over 10 years at this point.
Because of mistreatment?
Yes, and I needed to sort of back away for a second to get some perspective and clarity of I can't be pummeled and just constantly. And I, to be honest, I didn't want to be intimate anymore.
Yeah.
He spoke about that. My feeling was, I don't like how this is going, and I can't even become intimate with you, even though we've been together for a decade.
Right. And by the way, you described your new friends in really interesting language that suggests actual intimacy. I don't mean physical intimacy.
Yes.
I mean emotional
Yes.
intimacy. So you for some reason had an intimacy problem.
Yes.
You were attracted to things that were not intimate but were intense.
Yeah.
And were dramatic and interesting and fun and all those things, but not intimate.
Yeah.
And as things started unraveling, it was not working for you.
Yeah.
And then it collapsed, right? But you
Yeah.
stayed together for 6 months?
This all happened in the course of the final year.
Okay. But you were still together, working together, trying to make things
we were
work.
intensely working together.
Were you trying to make things work, or were you trying to get
working
things...
as in we physically worked together? A lot of people described it as it was a much better business relationship, and it seemed transactional.
Were you trying to unravel the
I was not.
He was leaving.
I felt like it was that's
I
my
don't want to
feeling.
out any stuff here, but so what is it? So it's the sort of the mistreatment that we're talking about.
Yeah,
right?
and I no longer felt, you know what it really was, is I no longer felt safe. And I no longer felt protected in the physical relationship of it all. And then you compound that with now you've got a 1 and 2 year old not yet looking at you, but soaking
it's
everything
so
up
tough.
and learning language and learning body language and learning. My longer term fear was that I'm trying to teach you to be a strong, confident woman, and she's going to look at me and be like, yeah, but what if the television show, for instance, continued? How do you tell me that I should be a strong, confident woman when he's saying what he says about you daily? And that's since continued for 5 years.
Which is a classic reason why a lot of women feel they have to leave once their child does get to a certain age.
Because they see it.
No, in real life.
Real life.
Like why women leave, because they have that aha moment where they're like, how can I raise my daughter when she sees what I'm putting up with?
Or
and
they
being
get
treated.
Or I have friends that got too deep. They realized it, they didn't do anything, and now the kids are 10, teens, whatever it is, and they're like, it's just a few more years to get them launched into college. But, you know, I also wonder, seeing the effects of that, I can now see that in those older kids that they have. Like, okay, and now do you notice who her boyfriend is? That daughter's boyfriend?
Yeah.
Does it look a lot like your relationship? And it does.
And that's what people do. That's what humans do. They repeat the patterns of the past.
So in a
especially
way,
when they're negative and traumatizing.
Yeah.
It's the opposite of what you would think, but that's how we work as humans.
and in a way, I felt like at 2, if this does fall apart, it actually is kind of an ideal age. Because really, what is her recollection, memory of us being in the same house and now 2 houses? Anyways, so that's what, sort of led to it, and where I felt like, again, it was that those set of eyes were an issue for me. And in the aftermath of 5 years later, I could not be the dad that I am today in the same environment.
Guys, it's that time. It's holiday shopping. We've got so much to do, so many things to buy. And Rakuten is the best way to save lots of money this holiday season, because you can stack holiday sales and deals on top of cash back to maximize your savings at over 3,500 stores. Stores will be at the highest cashback rates of the year, all the way up to 15% cash back at some of your favorite brands throughout the holiday season. So here is how it works. Your favorite stores like Bloomingdale's, Wine.com, pay Rakuten to send them shoppers, and Rakuten passes on a part of that money to members via PayPal or check. Get cash back at hundreds of stores across every single category, including fashion, beauty, electronics, home essential, travel, dining, and so much more. Plus, membership is free, and it's so easy to sign up. Join the 17 million members who are already saving. Start all of your holiday shopping at Rakuten.com or download the Rakuten app and start saving today. Your cash back really adds up. You guys know me. I love my handbags. I feature many in different photos, but I always want to strive to really keep them looking pristine. I know you do too. That's why I discovered Cure. Oh my gosh, you guys, this is the ultimate solution for protecting and preserving my purse collection, ensuring that they stay beautiful and last forever. You know, you maintain your shoes, your car, your body. Well, the luxury handbags really need it too. And they are an investment. We know that. So with Cure, you can make them last a lifetime. Plus, if you ever decide to resell, Cure helps keep your bags in that perfect condition so you can get top dollar. In today's world where overconsumption is a big issue, it's really crucial to make things last as long as possible, especially when we love them. So by taking care of your handbags with Cure, we can do just that. There's a limited supply available. So head to mycure.com to get your leather care kit today. That's mycure, mycure.com, the best way to make your handbag last forever.
But in my home, it's actual play dates at our house. It's play dates out with other kids. It's families that I respect the women, the wives, the mothers, the husbands, their relationships. And I can watch where, the husband will walk into a room at the end of a play date in the evening and come up and kiss his wife, and she's peering around the corner watching this engagement.
Your daughter is.
Yeah. She's watching to see it. So I feel comfortable in how she is in this environment that she's learning the social skills, but also how to be treated, to then notice when you're not being treated well. And Heather, I told you this the other day, but one of the biggest things for me in being a parent, and I'm not here to say, oh my God, you're a great parent. You're not. I don't need the accolades. The one thing reality TV taught me was that you don't believe the good and you don't believe the bad, because I'm probably never going to know you anyway. So you can say I'm the most handsome person. You can say I'm the ugliest person. I don't know you. You're not in my orbit. But what became kind of my thought process in parenting, and especially for having a daughter, is that I want you to be kind and respectful, because to me, the education part, unless you're a doctor or you're going to be an engineer, lawyer, your kindness and you just being a great human gets you real far in life.
Yeah.
And so if you're kind and respectful, you will attract that kind of person. I tell her this. She's only 8, but I tell her.
Did you stay in therapy after?
I didn't. That therapist really didn't know my ex, but really didn't like him. And I was like, I think this is about, and he said, my mother was a narcissist, and I see it. And I didn't fully process what he was saying then.
Wait, your mother?
No, his.
Oh, the therapist mother.
And I was like, okay, we're talking.
And so that was the first time someone thought maybe your ex could be this.
Correct. And
Okay.
I didn't, and it took me years later where I started to think like, gosh, what he said, that's really interesting. Because at the time I thought, no, I don't know. But back to your original question, sorry. The thing with parenting, just to wrap that up, and she's now noticing it with schoolmates. She's noticing that. So I thought, you know what? That lesson to me is so important. She's becoming such an interesting person that I couldn't have done that in that same environment. So I think that the benefit of this ending is that I am able to parent her how I would like to. And that's been good for her.
Of course.
To the end, what happened was, to your question about what caused that night, the therapist said, you need space. I said, I do need space. And I'm not exiting this relationship, but I need space. And he said, you need to go in and tell him you're going to be staying in the guest room. You're going to be, you have space in the home to do that? Yes, I do. And I told him, I said, he's not going to like that. It's not going to go over well at all. And he said, well, then you have your answer. Because he said, what do you want to do? I said, I don't want to leave the relationship. I don't right now. I need to step back. And as soon as I told him, get your shit, go to a hotel. We in 10 years had never done that.
And do you think it's because you asserted your stance for the first time and he felt the control was lost? And that's a question for you too, Drew. Like, why is it that,
It makes me wonder. There's called cluster B personality disorders, right? Which are the narcissistic disorders, borderline sociopath, narcissist. And let me just say, one of the things that has happened in the last 50 years is we've all developed narcissistic traits. The 3 of us have them. They're just is pervasive. That's the pandemic.
And is that because everyone has an Instagram account, because everyone takes selfies, because everybody posts photos.
Is narcissism how we look at in the mirror? Is it that we want to be pretty? Is it?
No. It's deficiencies in childhood, and maybe because everybody's working and everybody's busy and kids are abandoned or left to caretaker, whatever it is.
To care for ourselves or go to daycare, and all that, which didn't really exist 50 years ago, is what you're saying.
And then also the television and the social media. I mean, it's just been one thing after another.
Right.
So I watched it when I started working in psychiatric hospital in 1985. There was not a lot of narcissism. By 92, only narcissist, and the cluster B was being admitted to our hospital. only. And from then on. So it came in the late 80s. At the time, I thought, oh, it's because of all the abuse of the kids, because there was a lot of sexual abuse, physical abuse, neglect, a ton after the 70s. The 70s perpetrated all over the place, but I think it was even more than that. So this trend has happened. It's happened worldwide. And in cluster B, some of those personalities have a deep preoccupation with abandonment. And so the fact that you said, I've got to move away, felt like an abandonment, and he has to sabotage.
And that's something that he's spoken a lot about. And a lot of times in an argument would be, well, that's the fear of abandonment that I have.
So that moves his personality a certain direction. But a lot of people have that. And it can be, it's why people sabotage relationships. It's a fucking fear of abandonment is a mess. It ruins relationships all over the place. And it makes people volatile and dysregulated. It's a mess. So we're in that zone here.
But I guess in that zone, what I've kind of noticed, it's almost like the person that I sense you're going to break up with me, so I'm just going to jump the gun.
Exactly,
and do it first.
Because they can't deal with the abandonment. So they'd rather sabotage than have you abandoned.
It's just
so they're in control of the
right.
loss. Yeah.
But I also feel like sometimes there is an element where they also create chaos because they can control the chaos. They can almost start, whether it's a triangulation with people. This is something that has been witnessed by a lot of people in this 5 years. That I'm watching it and I'm like, it's very similar to this situation and that situation and all of that over the time that we were together. It keeps going. And when you step back away from it, I'm watching it. I bring these things up again to open up the conversation to people that may be going through this, but not knowing it and not being aware, but also because there is our daughter in the middle of this too. And I'm wondering, and I'm starting to see ways that this is manifesting in her and some of her behavior that has become kind of interesting.
Okay, so I think you sort of talked about triangles and chaos, and I think you're talking about splitting behaviors. This one's all good, this one's all bad, pit them against each other.
Yes, that's like I've watched that happen so many times with a lot of people.
But when you talk about splitting behaviors, can you give a hypothetical example? Because I don't really understand what you mean.
It comes from, Mom, I want an ice cream. You go, no, you just had ice cream 3 hours ago, no more ice cream. Dad, Mom says I can have some ice cream. Is that okay? And by the way, she's really mad or something where we pits two of you against each other to get your way.
Oh, for a kid to get the way. Okay.
But it starts in childhood.
Got it. Okay.
Called splitting is mom, dad. And in early in life, we kind of can see things as all good and all bad.
Right.
This is look at what's in social media today. People freaking out. It's all bad. It's all good. That is pathological. Nothing is all good and all bad. Everything is sort of gradations. But children see things all good, all bad. Certain personality styles see things all good, all bad. The splitting behavior is sort of a way of, it's sort of what's going on inside of them, and it's also a way of getting their way, as you said, using the chaos, using the drama of the split. But what I want to tell you is you're seeing splitting behavior. How old is your daughter now?
She's 8.
It's normal for 11 or 12-year-old. To start doing that stuff.
Yeah.
It's an adolescent thing.
Yeah.
Is she in puberty or pre-puberty yet
No.
or anything? Okay. So be careful, tell her to,
I think that is very hard, and I've talked about it on the show. And I had it with my daughter, Mackenzie, and I understand in California, they really want to give both parents like 50-50. But it is so, if a parent can see that they're not losing any control as a relationship and know that it's just, I believe a lot. Talk to any kid that's like over 25 that had to live in 2 homes, and they'll say, and you ask them, what was the hardest part about your parents' divorce? It wasn't like, oh, I wish they were together. It's like going from house to house, having the clothes, forgetting the book, da-da-da-da, and then really rich people will have 2 soccer uniforms and they will do all that and have 3 school uniforms. It's still hard.
Yeah.
It still really is hard. And I almost feel like the old school way of, every weekend or every other weekend and Wednesday nights and things like that, is, I remember one of my friends, Jill Zarin, she said that they were supposed to share it like more like 50-50 with her daughter who's now 32, Allie. And the husband said, I don't think this is working. Like, I think that she should, and to this day, the 3 of them all work together. And she's gotten remarried and blah, blah. And it's like, and the relationship did not suffer because the physical time was different. Right. But I see that that's a trend, and it's part of the legal system, especially in California, kind of starting with giving men more rights, which I agree with, the traditional father role. But I do think it's very hard on a kid when they're that age.
I agree. Be aware of that. I agree with you. But I'm interested in your missing the signs, your denial, your
my role.
Well, it's interesting because, when we think about it, we want to help other people see these things. That's something you could help folks with, because that's a really common thing. When you idealize somebody else, when you subjugate your own feeling states, when you deny what's actually happening, when you minimize, when you compartmentalize, these are all strategies that people use.
Yeah. And I obviously not aware of that at the time. And again,
but as
I go back to being 23, starting this relationship, this was sort of a larger than life personality that suddenly had an interest in me also. And
so it fueled your narcissism.
Maybe it did. And that in this process, I've always thought, like, am I the narcissist? Like, am I what out of this? Because I'm moved on. I have a great set of people. I have a great relationship.
You have real relationships now.
Yeah. And you said it, not me. But
that's where you're true and stable intimacy, kind
at,
relationships. Use that word. Kindness is something that people look for when they come out of something like this.
It's interesting because I went on a few dates with some pretty high-profile people in the time, and I really didn't have a serious relationship until the one I'm in now, which started 2 years ago. So 3 years of just like surface level stuff. And I immediately picked up. I'm like, nope, not you. What do you think of my personality based on what you see on Instagram? What's your perception? I'm like,
That's what kidding? They would ask you on the date? Yeah.
And I was like, let's wrap up dinner, and we're good. We don't need to talk.
Yeah.
But anyways, so I started to notice those things. But in the last couple of years, I've really thought, where was my headspace at to have attracted this? With you? Yeah. And again, there were good things that came from it, but that was 10 years of my life. And I think that some people look at it like,
But you made it work for 10 years.
I made it work for 10 years. I learned a lot, but I think a lot of people probably look at it like I was robbed. And now especially women, it's like you get into your 40s, and I have friends that are like, those were my good years. I'm like, that's so crazy because you have so much ahead of your time.
Women saying that.
Yeah, like I felt robbed in my 15 years or 20 years of marriage and whatever. But in my case, what I felt like, I don't know that my mom had full narcissistic tendencies, but what she did was, if there was an argument, and I was a middle child, if there was an argument, she would shut down. Her way of communication was shut down. And I felt like looking back in childhood, I became the middle child that is everyone okay? Yeah. Is dad okay? Are you okay? Are you mad at my older brother? Why are you mad at him? Really getting into the mix of it to where now with my daughter, it's very easy for me to sink into that. Like, I'm just going to shut down because it's how I know how to communicate. I do not. I probably overly communicate. Anyways, when all through childhood, I became that sort of like
caretaker, peacemaker.
Yeah, peacemaker more than
anything. Was your mom
anything.
an alcoholic too?
No, she was not. And then I think at an early age when I met him, here's this like magnetic personality, very successful, like just sort of in awe a little bit. He was running business.
And famous.
Well, the fame was, I think, a part of it, but it also was like, I come from an entrepreneurial family. This guy is just making stuff happen. He's hustling. He's been hustling. He's older than me. Wasn't anything I was attracted, like that wasn't what I'd never dated anybody older. It was really my first real relationship was him. And so I realized that I felt like there was comfort because very quickly what happened, we moved in pretty quick. We were completely together, and then shortly into it, you start to get little things where you're thrown into a little bit of disarray. And
these are the signs you were talking about.
Yeah, and I think
what were the signs?
I think the things I can talk to are probably more on the show that were on TV, where it's like you've done it,
meaning you're comfortable talking about something that's already public.
Yes.
Okay.
That was because also, at the end of the day, we still have a daughter together, and there's parts of it where it's like I don't understand how you've said what you've said because eventually I would assume she hears these things, and I don't. Anyways, these are things she could watch. About me in the aftermath of this has been a true nightmare. But these are things she can go watch on TV and be like, oh, okay. But it's to the point of what you said, like, I'm not sure what your value is. Yet we're running a very successful business. And then you're saying this stuff just ripping me apart at my core. And those moments throw me into, and at that particular moment, we have a newborn daughter. We are, for the first time, actually completely locked in for her life, or the rest of our lives. We didn't really have that. I was never any ownership in the business. I was never any ownership of any of the real estate, none of it. And so you then say that, and we're not married, but that's a life commitment. And now you're throwing us into this disarray where I'm just disoriented, and I'm like kind of blacked out. Like, what? We're in this now. We're in this that argument probably happened at 8 or 9 years in, and it's public, and I'm going to have to relive it in 3 months.
Do you know what he's talking about?
The moment in the car.
The moment that I said in the car from the TV show that I always remember when I think about how cruel it was when he says,
"Oh, that's
what's the value
okay.
of you?
Yeah.
You know, if you didn't do this and I have a nanny, and like, what's the point of even having you here?"
I see. So you're just a something to be exploited.
And I think early in the relationship, if I had my own family issues at that time, didn't really have a friend group around. You don't talk about the relationship outside of the relationship, which, I think is problematic when people don't. I think, now talking, I have a friend that will listen to this and she's like, dude, what the fuck? Like, what? All that was going on? And so I think whenever you start to isolate and get away from people that could be third party to just say, hey, just so you know, that's weird. It's a weird situation. You don't have to be that. But I got into that, and then it would be just sort of blown up. There'd be an explosion of stuff. And then I'm like thinking, fuck, I'm like 25, I'm 26. Like, what? I am fully in this.
You're
and it almost is, when I'm fully in that, how I felt was that it wasn't like, I guess it was kind of trapped, but how are you that upset about something that I think now, is this all ending? Like, what happens to me? What happens to what I've thrown and invested all this time in, this commitment to?
All these other considerations kept you in longer than you should have been.
Well, and then I found myself just figuring out how to make it work.
Oh.
And then I ended up.
Did you ever think about getting treatment as a couple?
We did at times, but it was with his therapist, and it wasn't like a third party.
Was it ever on the show?
Yes.
That's always great, right?
Yeah, therapy on TV.
I mean, it's okay,
Yes.
but
Then have the whole world then chime in too. Like, that's the other thing that I think, as someone who studied reality TV, because I love it and I talk about it so much, and that's why, because it's very fascinating, especially now with social media, whether it's just a podcast or radio show or TV show. People can get to you and write to you and say, like, you were wrong, you did this, you're, really nasty things. And even if you don't want to go to that site, somehow it slips into the DM, or someone who thinks they're doing you a favor says, oh, Gage, I just want you to know what was said about you today.
And I have that. And I'm like, I didn't really need to know, but I like the recap.
Yeah.
I physically cannot listen, even if they send me clips, unless it's real bad. I can't even listen to it because it's so hard.
That's all abandonment stuff and narcissistic rage. Narcissistic rage is afoot, everybody.
Well, there's a lot of that. And what I don't understand in that, and sort of doing this open therapy session with you, I don't understand how, going back to what you said, a male-female relationship with a mom, a wife that's now an ex-wife, the berating that goes on about, you should have never been on the birth certificate.
Because you're not the biological father.
That's a common thread.
So he's not the biological father. His partner is.
Yeah.
But
also,
they got, a surrogate and an egg donor.
Okay.
So that gets thrown a lot towards his direction, and by fans.
By a lot of fans.
Who are women, which I just find shocking.
But
I think that's
a narrative.
it makes me embarrassed to be a woman, that you would look at a gay father, and because he's not the biological dad, somehow think he's less than, because you're such a fan of this.
But hang on, but that's am I doing the math correctly? But it's always going to be somebody in a gay relationship with a child.
And
right, that's what I'm saying.
They're being homophobic.
That's what
by
I'm saying.
That.
They think that they're being supportive of this gay man because that's who they listen to every day. but they're not. They're like they're not even seeing
and again,
how wrong and hypocritical it is.
The worst thing in the world is for a child to have a deep relationship with somebody and then it rupture and vanish. The child feels responsible for that.
Correct.
And I don't care who the biological father is. It's just, that's going to damage the child.
So like that's of the multitude of things that have gone on, that has been a really strong narrative of even as of, I think last week, worst regret was putting him on the birth certificate. Like this was IVF. Like there was not a discussion. We were both father one, father two in the state of California.
Let me flip it around.
Like that. I don't understand how you could treat someone and talk like that.
Is there a way that this relationship could have worked?
And wait, and that has been said publicly by your ex. I wish I hadn't have put him on the.
More than a dozen times, as of recently.
Cultivate the word whatever. Whatever.
Yeah,
it's like of course he feels right because he's having pain. He doesn't like the abandonment. He doesn't like the hassle. Whatever.
That's interesting.
Whatever.
Yeah.
It's just that's all craziness. But is there a way this could have worked out? I mean, could he have gotten? Are there things he could have softened? I mean, again,
you mean as having a better co-parenting relationship, or worked out staying together?
If
romantically staying together.
Yeah. Could there is? I mean, would there a way you could have seen him realistically? And he softened some of his splitting, that it could have worked out?
No.
Because
to me, and I actually think this enraged him more personally, she became the priority.
For you.
Yeah. And because she became the priority,
you've said that many times already.
I couldn't, and I know now, there was something in my gut at the time, but I know now, I look at my daily life with her. I absolutely could not do that with her if I was still in that relationship, and that became more important.
Even if he had softened his stuff.
There's not a world that exists that it's even now. I'm criticized that I don't work enough. I don't have a job. All these things. It's this narrative that they've created that's completely inaccurate. Down to she takes the bus now. That became a whole recent episode. That he then wanted to control how her transportation was to get to school. Yet I'm thinking, dude, you're lucky that I have a job that technically I have a window of time, but it's really crucial. I'm actually at the office working during that exact time because it's East Coast hours. So in the morning, it's like, you want to control that. I don't work enough, but then work more and do this and do that. And that environment was consistent for the whole time. So being a parent and doing the parental things I like to do with her that I think are helping her, I would never be in that relationship and go back to it because of that thing.
Just light funniness of the taking the bus, okay? First of all, he has hired help that take her to school in a car. Yeah. So now she's going on a bus this is not dropping her off in, on Ventura Boulevard to get on the RTD by herself and go to Koreatown. Like this is a private school that provides small, cute, safe buses because there's people that don't live in LA don't know, but there's people from all corners of it and there's traffic. And so it works out. Okay. These people meet at this corner and their kid goes on and then they have a little friend. So, but that is drama for content for the show. And then this gets shared on his show.
So hold on.
Yeah.
This year, I'm thankful for Honeylove because there is nothing worse than suffering from an uncomfortable bra or shapewear. Honeylove has revolutionized the bra and the shapewear game. You guys know I just hosted the American Reality TV Awards and I wore 5 different dresses, but I wore one Honeylove Power Short. This was so comfortable. It worked with every dress. It lifts the booty, gives me a cinched out waist, just the mid thigh. It's so comfortable, goes all the way up to the boobs. It was so perfect in every dress. It was easy for them to put my mic pack on like a real reality star. And I absolutely loved it. Treat yourself to the best bras and shapewear on the market and save up to 50% off site-wide at honeylove.com/juicy this month only. Inventory is limited and the sale ends soon, so don't miss their best deals of the year. After you purchase, they'll ask you where you heard about them. Please support Juicy Scoop and tell them I sent you. Elevate your comfort, elevate your style. thanks to Honeylove. You guys probably know by now that I love Nutrafol. It is so great for your hair, and I have been taking it for a while. My hair feels softer, stronger. Really what I've noticed is the shedding that was happening prior to using it. That has virtually stopped, which I absolutely love. And the holidays are approaching. That can also lead to stress that oftentimes affects your hair. You've got to-do lists, you've got parties, you're not sleeping as much. Nutrafol is the #1 dermatologist recommended hair growth supplement brand trusted by over 1 million people. See thicker, stronger, faster growing hair with less shedding in just 3 to 6 months. The cold, dry air of the winter can be unforgiving, but your hair doesn't have to suffer. For a limited time, Nutrafol is offering our Juicy Scoopers $10 off your first month subscription and free shipping when you go to Nutrafol.com and enter the promo code JUICYSCOOP. Find out why over 4,500 healthcare professionals and stylists recommend Nutrafol for healthier hair. Nutrafol.com, spelled Nutrafol.com, promo code Juicy Scoop. That's Nutrafol.com, promo code Juicy Scoop.
So on one hand, when I hear these stories, I think, well, he's in pain too, and he's got rage, and he's acting it out, and blah, blah, blah. You as the codependent tend to act in, he acts out, right?
Yeah.
And but you're saying that he's continued to exploit Gage just for content.
All we've told
in
you
my
is
opinion, when I think
yeah.
about how many episodes Gage has been mentioned over the last 5 years since they've broken up, I would say it's 300 to 400 episodes.
It's not just him acting out his stuff.
With
it's
his
spilling
name
over.
and everything, because he...
But he wants to hurt him because he's hurting too. And that's
Right.
what
I
people
also feel like, in a way, and again, I have my core group of people, right? But I feel like, in a way, the intention is to get ahead of what could possibly be the truth coming out. And I'm going to accuse you of things that maybe I did, so that if you came back and said I did those things, it looks like it's a tit for tat childhood argument. Like, no, you did that. No, you did that.
Splitting.
And I feel like there's been this, like, and I don't fully get it, because I don't need to be in the limelight, that entertainment has been his business for 15 plus years. Go do it. That's your thing. Great. But at the expense of me, to say that 300 or 400 episodes, like, you're building a career off of talking shit about me. That's a little pathetic on one hand, but also it is almost like this intentional way to just destroy any credibility that I could have because of a fear that if what really went on came out, it would be. I just feel like I'm under attack constantly.
See,
with the person
I
I'm
would
supposed
need
to
more.
compare with.
I would need more information to be able to respond to that.
Yeah.
That's where I feel like the rubber hits the road. Whatever that is that you want to talk about, I feel like there's a lot there.
Yeah,
and so we're talking about personality styles and other things, but there's something else. There's something missing.
Yeah.
I mean, I
It's
just...
You can tell me off the air,
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
I mean, I just think in the world that we live in and in reality TV, there's a lot of storylines and whatnot that the girls get back to filming and they're like, you went on, Juicy Scoop and said, I didn't come to your party because I thought it was lame, whatever. And that happened. And then that becomes like a little storyline. That's one thing.
That's so crazy.
To listen to one or two podcasts where maybe someone talks bad about you that either you make up with or you're like, why is that person talking about me? But when I think about Gage's situation, to have every moment of their custody issues, their daily pickups, that an hour was changed, whatever, and then have people that are also being paid to be there as co-hosts chime in to please their boss who's paying them.
Would make sense.
To say, well, I don't know what's wrong with Gage. He clearly has issues, or it's clearly, these people aren't therapists. These aren't, or the therapists you have, I don't really agree with, but whatever. And I just, I'm like, when I did kind of like the math, and I was like, how many episodes do you think, while you're no longer on TV and no longer on your own radio show and just trying to like be a dad and have your business, how many times do you think you're talked about and mentioned? And I've seen even where someone's like, the only time the show is interesting now is when he's going after Gage.
So how many?
I think probably 300 to 400 episodes since you've broken up.
Probably.
But when I saw that little comment somewhere of people
But
that
it's
listen
like
to the show.
but it's totally consistent with how reality shows are done. It's
Right.
like a new manifestation of reality show.
It's very much that. It's
Yeah.
it's an extension of what that originally was, and that's
Right.
what that show has
But
become.
it's to me, I think that's almost sociological, not psychological.
Yeah.
It's weird.
But I mean, I guess the question is, my hope is that in this, that it would stop for you.
Oh my God, yes.
That it would
Well, of
stop
course.
for you.
Well,
That the
of course.
content,
Hope for
that
her
the
that it
content
would
about
stop.
you and your daughter, because what I also want to say is, when a couple gets divorced in this world of reality TV, for example, Tamara Burney on OC, when she divorced Simon said the minor kids can't be on TV. So they couldn't be on TV. Same with Brandi Glanville. But what's different about today, where these podcasts become reality shows, even if she isn't going to be on TV, your daughter, there is this like loophole of that you can talk about her and tell these stories.
Yeah.
And to a child, when they're 35, they might not care, or even when they're 25, they might not care that you told an embarrassing story about the day they got their period. Okay.
Well,
But to think that there's been conversations about what will that day be like when our child gets her period or when she wants to get plastic surgery, and speculation and funny and laughing and talking about a child that's just walking around, and we don't know now if her friends' parents have heard this and maybe are like, I'd rather you not play with this child.
Yeah.
Like, we don't, you know what I mean? That can
some
happen
screwball
too.
young male is going to play it back to her. Believe me. And a 12-year-old female, when they hit that age, they're going to use it against her for something. It's just how that age works. It's how it is. And, this is not good for kids.
Yeah. And I'm shocked that like the hardcore fans and stuff that are vocal in comments have never said, guys, I don't know that my 8-year-old would like to be talked about weekly
Well, it's
when
part of
they
the
said something,
delusion.
or even if the story is funny or exaggerated or made up or whatever. It's just that, because I remember with my own kids, I said when I did my stand-up, my first special, which was over 10 years ago, I was like, you can't watch this till you're 16, And now that they're older, I can talk about them on stage. They do think it's funny. They do look back at an old bit and think it's funny about the Hot Wheels car. But I remember somehow Brandon did see a little bit. And I joked and I said, Drake is my least favorite, but it was a joke because I said he's so much like Peter. Now, Brandon loved that joke. He loved that I said that. But then there was something else that I said and it made him mad.
Of course.
And I was like, I told you guys can't watch this till you're 16. And I realized, like, even though it's talking and stuff like that, and that's why I'm, and I was always like, can I post this? Is it okay? Can you be part of this video or you're not? And now they are good.
I heard about this was Bert Kreischer when he first showed his daughter one of his stand-ups. And they were like, is this what you talk about? You talk about us like this? He's like, yeah, I'm making fun. He's like, they were like, they didn't know how to process it. They were overwhelmed. And I thought, yeah, that makes sense, right?
Yeah.
The kids, it's their whole world. But there's a weird delusion with reality stuff generally.
Yeah.
Which is people watching delude themselves into thinking they're in the room.
Right.
They're a fly on the wall. Not that there are a cameraman, a cable guy, a sound guy on one side, a sound man, a cable guy, a director with a video village and 12 people in it outside over here. That's how reality's done. It's very manufactured. And you were not in the room. And you don't know these people. And what you say can hurt. It's like it's like they treat everybody on TV like they're comic book characters. Like they don't really exist.
As in the audience.
The audience believes they're in the room and that the actual people are just sort of cartoon characters.
Well, and I feel like that's
it's a weird thing,
like
right?
The fans that had watched this show I think I was on for 70 episodes of TV. Talked about for hundreds of whatever the number is. And these people, when they say these things, I'm like, you do all realize that the root of this, the whole, it's not, we don't have a conversation outside of co-parenting. It is all about co-parenting, and that's what's then shared. at the root is a girl who's innocent in all of this.
That's right.
And everyone's commenting, saying this stuff.
Yeah.
Whatever the personality types are on either side, it's been shocking and eye-opening to me. I don't need you to be my fan, but to your exact point, the audience thinks they know everyone in this mix.
Yeah.
And they don't.
No.
And the way they're treating, it's really hard for me to stand by because it's like, you're all in a way mistreating my daughter by what you're doing, what you're saying. Right. And it's exactly your point. The audience thinks they really know, and they know all the players and
they're
all
entitled to
They're entitled. That's why they're like,
yes.
we want to hear this, and Gage is ruining it for us.
Yeah.
Gage is
this and Gage is that. And why are you trying to shut it down? And what all of this stuff, because that makes the show so interesting. It's like, but again, I am just, it's like you said.
It's so funny.
Would you come back to this relationship? No, not at all, because I couldn't be who I am as a dad. And then when you look at that, it's like, don't shut down the radio show from being able to talk about her and to talk about him.
And that's what, also this is what makes the money, is me talking about my personal life, which involves you, my ex, and my kid. And the audience will say that too. Like, well, if Gage doesn't want them to being talked about, then he just shouldn't get his, child support. And it's like, you have all these other people on the show. You can talk about something other than your 8-year-old daughter and your ex,
And you can talk about your feelings.
Right.
But talk about in explicit ways the other people. That sort of, again, it's rough.
But it's true. It's like people, the entitlement of like, well, don't ruin our fun, Like, why are you such a buzzkill, Gage?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's not
a protected 8-year-old.
I'm sorry you're trying to protect your daughter, and you couldn't work a normal job if you wanted to because we bash the shit out of you every day.
And they're also very mad that he did, doesn't want photos of her on Instagram or whatever because she's beautiful and she would be very recognizable. Just like you'd see a Disney kid walking around the Grove, you might recognize your favorite character on an ABC sitcom, which is a scripted show, which they're getting paid and protected. So you had some stories where, women or whoever, fans, will come up to her and she doesn't know who they are, and it's freaky.
She got really freaked out at the Grove one time a few years ago, and I pulled everything off.
Well, that's brought up the Grove because the Grove is a story, but still.
Yeah. But we were shopping at some store that we would always go to and get dresses for her, and this woman came up and just started like a grandma type of figure and just intense. Oh my God, Monroe. And she grabbed a hold of my neck. She was probably 4. Squeezed, and in my ear, she's like, Daddy, how does she know my name? Ooh. And I was like, oh my boy. God. And I immediately, because everyone's like, you deleted your Instagram, because that was a baby. And as soon as she communicated her discomfort, I freaked out. I was like, oh my God, you have no idea what's coming. Yeah. Because you were born, she thinks she was born on TV.
Like, is someone going to come? Yeah,
I told her that was the end cap of documenting how you were born. You know that Aunt Alexandra grew you in her belly. You knew that your 2 dads came together and made you with doctors and with science. And we showed that so it could help other people. But that was the end cap of your your experience. This wasn't a TV show about you.
This is a Truman Show.
Yes, and it's like, so that becomes a constant fight, like because it's not fully documented that you can't post it, and but it's just, she is beautiful, and I don't need her to read 4,000 comments about how beautiful she is growing up.
Or the 5 that are like,
the nasty ones.
Not,
you need braces.
Yeah.
You blah, 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 blah. Like why would you exploit that to open that conversation for a kid that would then have to process that when we don't need to? If you want her to be in entertainment, she wants to be an actress, or we know everybody in Hollywood to be able to make that happen when she needs it. She is not a kid in Kansas that's trying to get her break. Why do we need to exploit her?
You don't have to do it now. She also can. She can be in the theater department in college. She can study
and
film
learn the art of it. But it's like this kid
and
right now.
She can do a high school play if she wants.
This kid right now wants to be an astronaut. She loves space. Everything about space. Let her be who she's going to be. We don't need to label and that's another
let her
struggle.
All that fun
but to
stuff.
your point, I feel like, that's one thing that is a struggle, is that the audience, it's just at the expense of whoever, because I don't really give a shit. I'm watching you as a character, Gage, who's not been on anything for 7 years.
It's a manifestation of the culture of narcissism. We all have these traits. And so these fans have empathic failure, and they don't appreciate what they're doing to her. They can't, because they don't have the capacity
Empathic
for
failure.
empathic attunement, the ability to appreciate the experiences of others emotionally, and certainly not appreciate their impact on others. I didn't expect to be so heartbroken by this conversation. There's a lot of really sad things in this one. And I'm
Thanks.
And I'm sorry.
Thanks. I'm going to go back to my life now.
No, I don't mean right now. Right
So
now, you
sad.
found kindness and intimacy and all these things that you found your way out. It's all great, but there's a lot of sadness for me in this hearing the story. You know?
Before we
It's
wrap
tough.
up, for the people that are at home that are not with a famous narcissist, but might have a narcissist ex, or they see that their partner does have it or certain traits, but they're not ready to leave. Is there anything that they could do or study or get to a place so that they could have pleasant days and not the kind of anxiety that might come with being with a partner like this?
Read about narcissism. I don't want people, again, because there might be traits, doesn't mean they're a bad person, doesn't mean the relationship can't survive. There's, I'm sure, tons of good things about that person too, and try to focus on that. But I think the one thing, I mean, oftentimes this also carries other things, addictions and things with it. That stuff needs to be treated. If it's not treated, this will not work. You as the codependent, the person attracted to these kinds of people, have to learn about boundaries and codependency. It's good. I think it's still out and around. A good book on narcissism called "Why Is It Always About You?" It's a good primer book on narcissism. And learn to set boundaries and ask for your needs to get met, and ask for kindness. It's funny that the kindness is the word that came up for you. That's often something people with narcissists aren't getting and don't know they need and don't know how to take it sometimes. But you should ask for that, and ask for them to practice paying attention to your needs. And it can work out. It doesn't have to be a disaster.
This is from Caroline Strawson. I don't know if she's just came up with this or if she's a doctor, but this is a smear campaign is what a narcissist does to damage your reputation and credibility because they perceive you as a threat or someone who rejected them.
So that's what we've been talking about.
Yeah.
The other thing
sums
is,
it up.
so the other thing is, if you're with a real narcissist, I heard a psychoanalyst say this the other day, and it was really great. He just goes, if that narcissist says to you, says you are, what you should hear is, I am.
It's a projection.
They do a lot of projecting,
And that's what I've had to help a few friends recently that are in breakups or should be in a breakup. That they're like, but they said this and they said that. And the one thing that I've taken away is you cannot change their story. Their story will morph into whatever their story needs to be so they sleep at night. As yours, probably you have your story. Stop trying to control that because you will not be able to control their narrative. But I feel like this type of thing is basically my last 5 years of it's just like what I don't understand is what is the intent of I've always thought, why would you come for me personally as I'm a horrible dad, I'm a this, I'm that. And this, I think it's more the abandonment
than even the threat.
But there's no overcoming that for a person like that has those issues of abandonment.
Yes, they can get treatment. The problem is
they don't see it.
Right. If you really have a disorder, if you really have a narcissistic personality disorder, why would I get treatment? You're the problem. The problem's out there. It's not in here. The locus of control is out there. But that's not a good way to go through life.
Yeah.
You want to be accountable for everything that's going on inside you.
Yeah.
That's important.
Well, I mean, this has been really, really helpful, and I'm really glad we got to have this conversation. And Dr. Drew, tell everybody if they are not aware, where they can listen more to you or follow you and your book.
DrDrew.com, DrDrew.tv. You can see our streaming show, Ask Dr. Drew. It's Tuesday and Wednesday, Thursday at 3 o'clock typically. Rumble's a great place to subscribe. We have Rumble channel there. Check it out.
Gage?
I'm just me. Going back to my sad life.
No, it's not a sad life.
He knows it's a lovely life.
I'm going back to the
story is sad. Where you are is good.
I hope that this brings some clarity, not more trauma. I don't know what it'll bring. I'm praying that maybe a few months from now, maybe even after this airs, there will be a shift and this won't continue. For the next 5 years. That's what I'm really hoping.
My hope is that I agree with you. There's nothing wrong. Like it's everybody else's issue. I just think that people should, in the world today, look at a little bit more kindness and a little bit more empathy.
He brought that up. I think that is the word of the day. Empathy is my word, kindness.
Maybe another perspective. The same as with a personality like this, if you're in it. look at it that there is maybe a deeper problem you have nothing to do with. And the lashing out on you has nothing to do with you. They're actually in pain. So feel for that.
Yeah.
In this circumstance, in this situation, because it keeps becoming so public every day, maybe a listener of that should be a little bit more empathetic of, at the core, you can hate me. I don't care if you hate me. That's fine. You're talking shit about the other parent of that girl who didn't sign up for any of this. So just, I feel that would be a great takeaway. If people are like, oh, you know what? Maybe we shouldn't say, gosh, your show's boring unless you talk shit about Gage or the other. Like, maybe that's a start. I don't know.
And there's a whole other topic we've not discussed. Another show would be a topic of shame. Shame operates in many levels in all these things.
Maybe
you mean if the narcissist feels shame, they react a certain way?
They have shame at their core, yeah.
Oh,
and if you get near that, that's when you get the.
Maybe we need a follow up.
We can do. Maybe do
just digest all of what we just dumped on you. Process your sadness, and maybe you come back and tell us the things that you need to share of what really is going on.
Oh my gosh!
Well, thank you so much, you guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
This episode of Juicy Scoop is sponsored by Honeylove. I love their comfortable bras without all that wire underneath. All of the Honeylove products are so comfortable, but they actually really do the job. They smooth you out. They give you a booty. They give you a tiny waist, and they're the best. Treat yourself to the best bras and shapewear on the market and save up to 50% off site-wide at honeylove.com/juicy this month only. Inventory is limited and the sale ends soon, so don't miss their best deals of the year. Elevate your comfort, elevate your style, thanks to Honeylove.